Okay, so where's Frank? Just kidding. I know there's no Frank.
Eh,
Do
he's
people
right
ask
here.
you guys that all the time? Like, is
There
there
we go. There's
someone?
Francis right there in Danny's shirt.
Oh, there's Frank. You're gonna have to be watching video to see that. That's good.
His actual name is Francis. So he's Francis says, "Stop calling me Frank."
I'm going to ask you about Frank in a minute. I'm going to ask
Yeah.
Eddie. I'm going to ask Eddie about the early days. But first, what I really want to know is maybe we can start with you, Terry. Like, where are you from, and where did you grow up, and when did you start playing?
Well, I'm from the same place that gave us the great Dan Kopko and the nearly infamous Rob Zombie, Haverhill, Mass. This is where I grew up. This is where I live still. And music's always been a part of my life because my mom was a musician. She played piano, sang. I started on piano lessons. I was hearing a lot of all kinds of music always. And when I was younger, I was like everybody else, listened to pop music. And then the big 50s revival came in the mid 70s. So I started listening to oldies, and I've always been listening to older stuff ever since. And so my form of rebellion in adolescence to music, if I saw a band name on a t-shirt at high school, I rejected it out of hand. I don't want to listen to that band. That band is on your t-shirt. I don't care what that band. They suck because I'm listening to my older stuff.
You're listening to
And
Eddie
it was,
Cochran, like Eddie Cochran and
oh,
stuff like
yeah,
that. You mean?
anything like that. Eddie Cochran, um, you know, Chuck Berry, all the old doo-wop groups. I wasn't a record buyer. I'm still a record collector. So I was just, but I'm a huge fan of the radio. I listen to a lot of stuff. Even now, on WMBR, I'm listening to the Lost and Found show every day that I can. I'm listening to Backwoods every week. I like hearing music that's curated by a DJ. My favorite radio show is on Friday afternoons from Maine. They play what was released this week, 100 years ago, 90
Wow.
years ago, 80 years ago. So from 2023 to 1973, the newest records this week. Every week they do that. And I've been listening to that for decades. I love that show.
Is it a college radio
No, it's
show?
it's the main public broadcasting system.
Wow. And you mentioned MBR before for people in other parts of the world, because I've been finding out I have a lot of fans in Finland lately. Hello, Finland.
Hello,
Um,
Finland.
WMBR is MIT's radio station, but it's actually run by a bunch of older people
Yeah,
that
it's
have
all
been around. I
volunteers.
shouldn't say older because they're my age now,
The
The great
programs we listen
Joni,
to, the older people.
yeah, the great Joni Lindstrom and people like that who have been a
Yeah.
part of the music scene forever, you know. Danny, where are you from, Dan?
I'm from Somerville. I'm a lifer here. I 61 years I've been in Somerville. Yeah, and it's I'm raising a couple of teenagers here. It's a nice city to live in.
I love Somerville.
Yeah, yeah. I was fortunate to be born here.
Did you get into music at an early age?
Yeah, it's funny. Unlike Terry, there was no music in my family. Like my mom and dad were never much of a music fan, so they weren't listening. And I just came across it with friends. But yeah, when I was like 15, 16, I started, listening to what are now the classic rock bands. And, of course, when I turned, 16, 17 and discovered punk rock, everything changed. But like Terry, I reach back. I way prefer listening to older music and seeing bands that are, playing that style of older music. And of course, I still love my live punk rock, but hardly ever listen to it, in fact.
As far as bass players go, were there any like bass players that influenced you early on? Did you start off on the bass?
Well, I started out on guitar and quickly moved to bass when I found out there was a form of a guitar that only had four strings and you had to play chords on it. So I took I took the easy route. But I mean, Dee Dee Ramone was a huge influence for me. Um,
Dee Dee. I think we lost Stan for a second here. Eddie, I'll just shift over to you while we get his audio issues straightened out. Now, I know you're a founding member of the band, so I'm going to ask you about that in a minute, but where are you from?
Rico, thanks for having us. Yeah, I was originally born in Mattapan.
Mattapan.
And I grew up in the city, and that's where I met Lenny and so on and so forth. And then in 1977, moved out to Quincy, and I actually graduated North Quincy High. So I've been a few places, but so I started initially playing the drums. We had a two family at 72 Greenfield Road, Mattapan, Mass, and this was just prior to us moving to Quincy, and the first floor was vacant. So I started out with like a snare and a bass drum and like one cymbal, just messing around, and then went on from there. Probably like 15 or 16 years old.
Wow. Now, you mentioned Quincy. We got you back, Dan. We lost you for a minute, but I see you're back now. We missed you. I've been talking to a lot of guys from the Braintree area lately. You didn't go to school with like Springer from SSD or the Barton brothers from the Outlets or any of those guys.
Oh, yes.
Did you?
So I hung out at this store right on Beale Street in Quincy, and Springer was just a few streets down. So so when Springer was growing up as a kid, I witnessed all the shenanigans. Some of the stuff that he did. There was a group of them. There was Jay Johnson, who was a good friend of his. And there was all types of shenanigans going on.
Did you say you worked? Did you work in a store? Because if you did, Springer probably robbed it, right?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, we were just talking about this the other day. A really quick story. I don't know if I think it's beyond statute of limitations, but there was Forbes Hill Golf Course. And what we did was we broke into the Coke machine and stole all the quarters out of the Coke machine. And the cops were chasing us through the golf course. And so we're running along, and all of a sudden the ground went out from underneath us. It was like a cartoon, like our feet are going, nothing there. Basically, it was pitch dark at like 3 a.m, and we hit a sand trap. So we're like running, and all of a sudden there was no ground there, and we dove into the sand trap. It was pretty funny, But the only reason why I said that, because I was with some Quincy friends Saturday, and we were talking about the old days,
Was Springer with you that night?
That I'm not 100% sure. He might have.
Let's say he was.
Might have been.
Let's just say he was there.
I would say there's like a 90% chance he was definitely there that night. But that was just a few, that was stupid stuff you do as a kid,
Yeah.
But there was so many other, stuff we did there, it's we had a lot of fun, but caused a lot, but nothing, nobody got hurt or nothing, we didn't, we did stupid things, but had a lot of fun doing it,
Before I ask you about the very beginning, Lenny, vocalist, is not here. Dave and Jeff, the two guitar players, that's everybody, right? Six members,
thank you
right?
for doing the research.
Yes.
Appreciate it, Rico.
Oh, yeah, I've been following you guys for a while, man, and I think it's you that always, one of you guys always comments on my show and gives me compliments. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that, man. And I've been talking to Lou, which we'll get into later, about you guys for a while. But so just getting back to the history, Eddie. So you and Lenny started the band?
So originally it was Lenny, this another friend of ours, Billy Stevens, and myself. It just started 3 of us. So Lenny's father owned a bar in Hyde Park, the Cavern Cafe, which I believe is still there. So they had a back room there. So we used to do, we had punk rock shows there. This was back Frank originated 86, but we started in 84 messing around, down in, so Lenny lived right behind the bar. We used to practice down in Lenny's basement.
It's convenient.
We moved from his basement to my basement where we currently practice now, but only because the rent
in
is good.
between the triple decker.
Oh, yes, right, on Hyde Park Ave, correct. So, so it was just the three of us. Like I said, Lenny, Billy, and myself, and Dave Forbes happened to be at that show.
Blow my end.
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. So, we did a show at the Cavern House. There was bands like The Knot, a good friend who unfortunately just passed away, Rob Wallace, was part of that band. And
wow, I haven't heard anyone mention The Knot in years. I remember that band.
Yeah.
Early punk band. Yeah.
Yeah. Pete Patino.
If I might interrupt you for a second, we are in the process of doing a memorial service. I've been in touch with Rob's sister. This has all just transpired the past couple of days. And the other two members of The Knot, I was in touch with them just yesterday, and they are going to perform some Knot songs after Rob's, ceremony service. We're gonna cemetery service, and also another one of Rob's bands that Lenny and I were both in, called Shaggers, will be performing as well. So we're gonna do a tribute to our good friend Rob Wallace, who we all love very much. He's such a great guy.
It's awesome.
Yeah,
I was working out in LA for I think it was when I was at Enigma, and I got some stuff from The Knot. I remember them.
Yeah, they were amazing. They were super high energy, just ahead of their time. Really, they were. And they toured the country.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, they toured the country. They were pretty big in their little circle.
Okay, Eddie, where were you?
So we originally did shows at the Cavern, and then so Dave Forbes happened to be at that show, and he just came up to us and said, "Hey, we want to join the band." And at the time, Billy was playing guitar, so he ended up in the beginning playing bass. So it was Dave Forbes playing bass, and then so there was the four of us, and then Terry O'Malley came along, and then a while after that, yes, Billy left the band, and then Danny came along, and that's when Dave went back to guitar, which he originally did to begin with, but he played the bass because he wanted to be with the Frank boys, So.
What made you guys decide you wanted to incorporate saxophone into the band?
I can answer this if you'd like, which this is new to me. So
I was going to say it's still a mystery to me.
Yeah. So okay, well, I just found this out from Dave. So I always thought Terry was good friends with Dave, and they grew up or knew each other. Come to find out, Dave Forbes put an ad in the paper, FNX, and Terry answered the ad, and that's how we got into the band, which I kind of just found this out recently. So
I did not know that either.
I don't know, Terry.
Dave and his friend Bill. Remember Bill?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
They were trying to write songs together and form a band, a blues band, a Congo blues. And so I met David and was hanging out with them for a couple times. We were practicing songs, and then it was several months because David was already playing with Stop Calling Me Frank, and then several months later, hadn't seen them in a while, and David calls up and says, "Hey, you want to come to a Stop Calling Me Frank practice?" I said, "Okay," and I showed up, just messing around, met the guys. They played a song. I listened. I put a little saxophone part on it, and in my head, I was thinking, this is just a jam. I'm just playing with these guys for fun. And at the end of the practice, Lenny says, "Okay, here's the tape. Learn these songs. You have a gig in a couple of weeks."
The two bands I always think of in Boston when I think of saxophone is Boys Life, They were
Yeah.
an early band. They had a sax player. And then, of course, Morphine with Dana
Yeah.
Colley.
Yes,
So,
yeah.
and those two bands are amazing bands. So you guys are in good company having a sax player. There's been others too, but I mean, those two are the ones that really come to mind. Eddie,
I
going
got to do a little Boys Life tribute. It must have been just before the pandemic when all Mod Cons had their last show. They invited John Surrett up to do a couple Boys Life songs.
of course
And
they did.
they got in touch with me to do the saxophone parts. That was a blast. That was
Yeah,
at once in Somerville.
I went to school with Glenn Maddow. We went to Framingham State together. They were on my show, actually, all Mod Cons, way early on. And I'm a huge Boys Life fan too. You know, I Founder is probably one of my all-time favorite Boston songs. Of course, I could say that about 99 other songs too. Eddie, what I
Yes.
didn't ask you is the name.
Nobody
Okay.
remembers. Everyone was drunk.
Yeah, yeah. So there's a few stories on that, but I'll give you the one from my perception. So Dave Forbes used to work at Pine Street Inn, and there was a guy that came in every day for a meal for like a good month, solid month, and so every time he'd get his food, he'd say to Dave, "Hey, Frank, thanks, Frank, thanks." So this went on for a month. And so finally, Dave said, "Hey, stop calling me Frank. My name is Dave." You know, so that kind of how that came about.
That sounds
And
pretty
so,
clear to me.
yeah.
Lenny.
So,
Lenny.
but yeah, and
Lenny's
then
not
there's the
here,
story
Steve.
then there's the story of which Terry mentioned that we were all drunk and didn't have a name, so we just came up with that name.
Sorry I called you Lenny Terry. That was bound to happen, you know. Is it Osborne or Osborne? Because he spells his name funny. I know I'm just throwing that out there
It's
now.
Osborne.
But he
Osborne.
spells it Ous, right?
Yeah.
It's weird. But you know,
Yeah.
listen to me, Steev over here.
Yeah,
Talking
you
about
can't spell Steve properly.
spelling their
I mean,
names wrong.
maybe I can ask him. It's kind of funny in my house in Somerville, the way I guess I'm continuing the story a little bit in the future,
Yeah.
but the way we got Jeff Osborne was he lives in that house right there behind me. Our
Blue one.
backyards abut each other. So it was kind of funny. I always listening to music. I always have music going in the background. And I'd be in my backyard or on the deck listening to music. And this stranger would just like go in his deck. He goes, "Oh, you listen to David Bowie?" He goes, "I love that album." He'd pull the album out and show it to me. So we just got to know each other that way. And it turns out he's a guitar player. And I was like, you know what? We could use another guitar player. And Frank, why don't you come down with us? So,
Wow. Okay, where in Somerville do you live? Because I lived in Teal Square for like 9 years.
oh, I grew up in Teal Square on Clarendon Ave, where my mom still lives. Clarendon Ave is the one that goes from Teal Square right down to Mass Ave.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, halfway in Cambridge. And I currently live right between Davis and Ball on Bay State Ave, not too far from Pothouse Park.
I lived on Broadway in Victoria. You know what Victoria is?
Sure,
You know where the
yeah.
gas station is?
Absolutely, yeah. That's where I had my paper route when I was a kid.
The gas.
I was at the tail end of the old days when you had a giant cart with those Sunday papers that you'd have to like cart down the street to drop them off. Yeah, that's.
I had a
but that was
basket on my
paper
bicycle
route.
with the Sunday Globe.
Oh my God, yeah.
By the
I'm
way,
just-
I love Somerville. You know, I was recording my show at New Alliance for like hundreds of episodes, but that podcast room's gone now. But
Yeah,
I
we
still
ran into you there when we were recording our second
that's how I
record.
met you guys. I was going
Yeah.
to talk about that because I've talked to a few of you guys before. Where was I? Okay, going all the way back, Eddie, once again. This part of the story blew me away because I didn't know this until I went on Discogs. Rush On By Baby Drive's the first single, my 2 songs you recorded. Paul Coldery and Sean Slade?
Yes, yes. So we were a part of that Fort Apache in Roxbury, the original one. When
Wow.
you know, Pixies record. We were right around that same time when all these awesome bands, were recording, and we just went in there and did some songs, and it was unbelievable, And it's funny, we did a lot of recording in different studios, but before we met Lou, basically the only thing we had was that original 45,
No,
And
I have to
now,
ask you. I
Go
have
ahead.
to ask you, did any of your cars get broken into while you were recording at the old Fort Apache?
I think we were lucky because and back then, I know I drove ship boxes, so they'd look at my car and just keep walking. So I think I was lucky enough not to get broken
Hey,
into.
Terry, this is a good time to tell him your Bugsy story.
My car got robbed at a gig by one of Eddie's friends, one of his Quincy pals.
He was
Took all my
he was trying to
cassettes.
tell him his
Oh
cassette.
no, he was a Mattapan boy. He wasn't a
Oh, he's-
Quincy boy. He was a Mattapan.
Sure he was. Sure he was, Eddie. Wink, wink. I forget who it was. I think it was it might have been one of the not Jeremy Dupree, the other drummer of Morphine. Of course, I'm having a mental block. I think his car got broken into and all their gear got stolen because Paul was on the show and he told me about that first studio. And I'll tell you, some great stuff came out of that room. In fact, I'm going to ask right now, if you guys have a copy of that 7-inch single, I would love a copy of that.
We got
Yeah.
it. We got it.
Yeah.
Eddie's got one on the wall right there beside
Yeah,
him.
actually.
I was going to blame Dan for saying everyone has to watch on
That's right
YouTube
there.
now because most people listen, but because you guys keep pointing things out. I saw it, the green one.
Yeah, that's the
Wow.
original.
Well, you don't have to take that one off your wall, but if you have another one.
No, but I got a bunch. I pretty much all the stuff that we've accumulated. I've accumulated a ton of stuff over the years. But we have some of those singles, and we'll definitely make sure we'll get you all of it.
I've got your CDs. I love vinyl, man. And when I saw that you had a 7-inch single, I was like, I gotta get a hold of that.
Yeah. And that was the original one, recorded at Fort Apache with Sean and Paul. It's funny. A few years back now, we're at the show Avoid One Thing, with Joe Gittleman.
Great band.
Yeah. So, and that was with Amy and Paul Delano. So Paul was there, and I said, "Hey, Paul, I don't know if you remember me. I'm, Eddie, the drummer." He's like, "Oh yeah, I remember you guys, Fort Apache back in the '80s." So he actually remembered who we were, which I was shocked because all the bands that they dealt with,
was he like an intern there or something, Paul?
I think they worked together. Sean and Paul.
Paul.
They called them the dynamic.
No, I mean Paul from Avoid One Thing. Paul from Mung too. was
No, he wasn't. It was what is it? Paul Slade and Sean Coldery, right?
Sean.
Paul Coldery and Sean Slade. But you brought up Paul from Avoid One Thing, and I was wondering if he had worked there or something.
No, he was produced that album for Avoid One Thing, so that's why he was at the show.
Oh, okay, right, yeah. And you know what? Their records sound so good; it makes sense. I'm a big Paul Coldery fan. He's really, really good.
Oh yeah.
Now, you guys used to play a lot of gigs at Chet's Last Call. I read about that
Chet's,
somewhere.
Yes.
And that's became the Causeway, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I didn't.
Go ahead.
I was going to say I didn't make it there until the 90s when I was living in New York, but I worked for A&M Records, and Paulie Graham's office in Boston had season tickets to the Celtics, and I was a big Celtic fan, so I used to get tickets all the time. Paid $60 to sit in the 4th row center court. I mean, every time I went. But then my friend David Robertson, who used to work for Aerosmith, and he became the manager of the Neighborhoods. That's how I knew him, because I worked with the Hoods.
Okay.
he said, let's go to the Causeway across the street. And I'm like, all right. Martin Doyle was running the place then. This is like 96 maybe. And Martin Doyle was running the place. And that's when I heard this used to be Chet's last call, because I never had been there. And then I realized, wow, I went there, but it wasn't Chet's. So you guys opened for some pretty good bands there, didn't you?
Yes. Yeah. There was, we played with the Dogmatics a bunch of times there. And then, there was some national acts that came through, and we were on a few of those bills, but it was mostly like the local bands that we played a lot with,
Yeah, well, all those local bands from that era now are all famous. It's funny because when you talk about all the bands in the 80s in Boston, Scruffy the Cat, the Dogmatics, Belly, Throwing Muses, Pixie, all these bands all became famous, and they all started playing at the Green Street Station and the Rat and all those places. Now, what happened between 1987, I think, when that single came out, and like we're in 2023 now. I mean, were you guys playing along this whole time, or did you break up for like 15 years and get back together?
Who wants to take that?
I'll take it. So what happened was we did break up, and Lenny and I actually started another band called Shaggers that I had mentioned before. And we were playing around, but we were all still friends with each other. And somebody would have a graduation party or a 30th birthday, and we would get together and play. I don't think 2 years went by that we didn't play in all those years. Like we just get together,
reunions.
Yeah, all just kind of reunion shows. And then when Tea to the Beers closed, Kevin Patey, who was Jittery Jack, was managing the place. Yeah, and the Raging Teens, and he was also a shagger. He played in Shaggers with us, so we were very good friends with him. And when they were doing the final shows there, he asked if we wanted to play. He actually got in touch with Lenny and I and said, "Hey, I'll have either Shaggers or Stop Calling Me Frank." So Lenny and I talked about it, and I was like, you know what? Stop Calling Me Frank's more fun. Let's do Stop Calling Me Frank. So that was a reunion show. And I think that's when we pulled in Jeff, and we just stuck with it since. We had so much fun just doing that one show that it just all kind of clicked. We started doing more shows, and then our good friend Justine, who we miss dearly, dragged Lou down to see us at a show at the Midway, saying that, basically dragged him down, saying you need to get these guys on your label. And Lou came and saw us and met us, and we clicked immediately. And then he started putting out records for us. And he's our pal. He comes down to rehearsals all the time and hangs out and has a couple of drinks. And
he's the great disruptor.
Yes, he is the great disruptor.
I was just
we love his disruptions.
Yeah, first of all, I want to say Justine Koval, very sad news about her.
Yes.
She helped me a lot. She was like really a big supporter of this show. So I miss her, and I loved Malachite. So I go all the way back to I remember when I first got that Malachite tape, and you have to be careful how you word things now. You used to be able to say all female band and not get in trouble. And now, but they were all women. I believe. And they were like an amazing band. Okay. And I fall Swank, Curve of the Earth put it out and all that. So yeah, I was on the phone with Lou the other day for a while, and he must have mentioned the Booze Cruise about 15 times. But we're going to get to the booze. We're going to get to the Booze Cruise. But here's my next question. Spider in My Beer and Other Songs. You recorded that with one of my favorite engineers, John Taft, over at, I believe you must have did that at the New Alliance studio in Cambridge, right?
Yeah, the one in Cambridge.
So how did you get on Taft's radar?
I don't know. We're just looking for a studio we could afford, and the timing worked out. He was fun. He was good to work with. He was
great.
Also, I will add to that. that Dave Forbes, our guitarist, is a sound guy. So he was very close friends with John Taft. So we kind of had it in that way. Dave and John had worked together a bunch of times. So Dave was familiar with him. And, you know, John Taft is, unfortunately, he moved down to Florida. So he's no longer here. But yeah, he did a great job. We connected good with him, and we even liked his dry sense of humor, that Bob Newhart sense of humor, you know. So, but yeah, he's really great, and we loved working with him.
Okay, I don't know if this is going to get me in trouble or not. It could be breaking news, but it could also get me in trouble. I might not be able to say this, but I did hear there's a rumor that John Taft may be returning to the area, and I hope it's true. Hope it's true, because I know his buddy Ethan over there and Alvin Long and all those guys would love to have John back in that studio, because I did some work with John too. He's a really good engineer. He did a great job on your record. Now, were you already on Rumbar Records when you recorded Spider and My Beer and other songs, or was that like you recorded it and then you signed with Rumbar Records?
You know, it's such a handshake deal with Lou, and it all happens at the same time. And it's like, man, we're having a good time. We should record some of these songs. We should find a studio. Hey, you guys have a record out yet? We haven't got a record, Lou. Well, get a record, you know, and I'll help you distribute it. That sort of thing.
Right. And now when you put that out, I wasn't here. I was living in Pittsburgh. Did you get a good buzz going when that record came out? Because that's really your first full-length album, right?
Yeah. Oh, we have no idea about that stuff. We had the worst self-promoters ever. We never had a manager.
But yes, it did get a lot of play, that record. It got a lot of play worldwide on the interwebs and whatnot. It got quite a bit of attention. We got a lot of really positive write-ups from all over the world as well. So that was pretty amazing. Like for us, for having been at this for so long and really not been out in the world outside of Boston, and then all of a sudden we're out there and people love it. It's the best. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that, you know?
Well, the first
impression.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
The way that Lou has all these connections with, DJs and internet radio stations and music fanzines and stuff like that, that has been a terrific thing. So, and to get, as Danny said, to get that feedback from other countries, it's fantastic.
Yeah. And, I remember when I met you guys, it was probably during the pandemic, because we were going down the New Alliance. I was still recording. We took 3 months off, I think. Everything shut down for like 3 months. Seems like that was like a million years ago, but it was such a long, when it happened, it was so eye-opening. I met some of you guys. You guys were the nicest guys in the world, man. I can't remember who I thought. I think I talked to like Eddie. Did I talk to you, Eddie, for a little while? Or I remember talking to you guys, but it was like
you chatted
we had masks
with me and Len
on.
briefly. Yeah.
It was
just before that. Because that was a screwy thing. We had almost finished recording everything, and we had a release date for and we got the second CD out, and we still had a single we wanted to do that we recorded with a couple of the Flesh Tones, and we still had to do some pickup stuff on that, and we couldn't get back to New Alliance. And then we wanted to push the CD, and we couldn't do that because we couldn't play out. And yeah, it was tough in early 2020.
Was it a smooth transition for you going from John Taft to Ethan? Because they're kind of similar. I mean, they're both great engineers.
Yeah, it was different. It was a different room. It's a different vibe. So, but
Ethan's Mr. Serious, man. I know he's Mr. Serious.
It's not like this is our studio. This is our sound. We need this setup. We don't know anything like that. David does, but so we trust David. Trust the engineer. Tell us what we need to do. Where do I stand? Where do I play? Give me a microphone. Me, they, Eddie, they stick in the middle of the room. Me, they stick in a closet. And then Danny has to figure out, do I play through an amp or do I play through the board? And I'll try it this way and I don't like it. I'll try it the other way. I don't like that way either. It's really hard. So
it's a
you
good
need
room, though.
A good sensitivity. We did have a really good experience.
Go ahead, T.
It's all you, man.
I was going to transition to the next thing we just recorded. We went up to Gloucester to Bang a Song studio with Tony Goddess's place with Ed V. And that was really great. We had a great time up there. And Ed V is another guy who absolutely knows what he's doing.
I love Ed V. But before we go to Ed V, let me just ask.
Some of the guitar players, I'm not going to mention any names. Which amp should I play? What else guitars do you have around here I can play through? How about this sound? How about this sound?
You kind of jumped a little ahead on me there. I was going to ask you about the Hard Loving Man EP because you didn't record that with Tony, did you?
No. So the Hard Loving Man was that was New Alliance with Ethan.
Yeah.
We had to do pickups with Ed at the old Q. We had to do a vocal overdub, and we just did a quick pickup for something there. Oh, because Lenny had got the words wrong initially.
Okay, because you jumped ahead on me there, and I wasn't sure. So after you did that is when you recorded new stuff with Ed at Tony's studio, and was that Gloucester?
Yeah.
Wow, it's got to be fun going up there and recording, huh?
It actually wasn't bad. Great. It was a great place, and Tony and Ed V were awesome to work with. They were really good to work with. Felt real comfortable. And it was a great experience. And and what I like about Ed V, if he don't like something, he's going to let you know. Which you want in an engineer. Something ain't clicking, you let us, he's going to let us know and we'll straighten it out,
He's a pretty damn good bass player too, huh, Danny?
Oh my God. Hell of a bass player. Yes. Yeah.
Cool. So now there's new stuff. Is there new stuff? Did you release anything new yet after the Hard Loving Man EP?
We finally have a single ready. It should be released in the next couple of weeks. A song that Jeff wrote called All the Oxen Free.
Yeah, Terry sent me that. So I got it. I think we lost Terry. Oh, there he is.
Here
Terry did send me that. So I'm probably going to play it on the show.
Great. So next Friday is the release date for that song.
Yippee.
Yeah.
Oh, how interesting. Because I think the show will be out on Thursday. So we'll have one day to promote it.
Man, you are a fast turnaround there.
Well, I'm going to have another show between now and then. I'm trying to do 2 shows a week, but it doesn't work out every week. But this time around, I think it's going
That's okay, man, because sometimes I can't listen to both 2 shows in a week.
So why don't you guys tell me about some of the stuff that you like and that you're listening to? We'll change the subject a little bit here. Why don't you go first, Terry? You said you don't listen to, did you say you don't listen to music at all? Or...
Oh, I know. I listen to music all the time, but it's just that my preferred listening is, I like radio. So I don't listen to the radio over the internet, but I like when a DJ, not a computer, is selecting songs and doing one of my favorite shows is Wednesday night out of Durham, New Hampshire, University of New Hampshire station. That's a great rock show, mostly stuff from the late 70s, early 80s. I think the DJ's about collectively our age. And she'll say, and it's so-and-so's birthday this week, so we're going to play this cut, but we're not going to play the hit. We're going to play this, the third track from side 2 of the album. Stuff like that, and theme songs like Alex does on Fridays in Lost and Found, and The Scene on Friday mornings.
Yeah, I'm into that too.
Yeah, someone has collected an idea. We're going to do a theme. We're going to do segues from a song to song. That's what I like. And that's, when I listen to my own music, if I can't hear anything on the radio, I'll put it on shuffle. So, but it makes me feel bad because there's so much music I haven't heard made by my friends. I still have to hear because I want to take time. I don't want to just click on a link while I'm looking at my phone, because I want to hear it properly. So I want to sit down. I want to put my headphones on. So, I owe the Spackles a listen. Sorry, guys. I haven't heard the latest thing yet. I have to listen to the rest of the Chelsea Curve album. I want to listen to the whole thing. I just listened to what I pick up. Stars Like Ours. That's a great record. Had a good time listening to that. Because I knew I had time to sit and listen. If it's just background, then it's not all that involved. Oh, another one that plays us that I like, Music Authority out of Florida. That's a great internet show. So I'll put that on sometimes and let that play.
Wow, you're really serious about your radio shows, man.
Love it. Love it.
I like it. What about you, Danny? Are you like do you have a record player?
I do have a record player, yes. And it's funny. I'm almost just exclusively the two extremes. So I'm either streaming music on Spotify or listening to my old vinyl. And I'll still buy some vinyl, but I'm always looking at the discount bin. I always want that, that dollar record from the 50s or 60s from a band I never heard of. And I get excited about like discovering music in that way. But like Terry, I do listen to a lot of radio too. I cannot go 10 minutes without some sort of soundtrack going in my life. Always have to have it. I'll listen to COZ online, out of New Orleans, or sometimes I'll stream like John Funky. If I miss the show on Saturday, I'll stream it during the week. I love listening to that. And one of my favorite hobbies is just making playlists. I've always done that. Back in the cassette days, I would make,
mixtapes,
mixtapes, and I still do it on Spotify. That's like my favorite thing, and I modify playlists all the time, and try to get other people to listen to it. But I love the discovery. I love discovering things I haven't heard before.
I'm gonna throw a plug out there for Stereo Jacks over
right up the street.
Medford, Somerville. He's got some good stuff.
Yeah, he's right up the street for me.
Yeah, Chris Anzalone. If you go through his bins, I've bought some stuff there. I go to a lot of record stores. I'm a vinyl guy myself. What about you?
If you come up to Haverhill, go to Welfare Records. Let me know if you're coming up.
I've heard about Welfare. I have not been there. I'm a little scared of the Merrimack River area, but I'll try to make my way up to the dangerous streets of Haverhill. Going to go to Lawrence first and hang out there, and then I'll head over to Haverhill. People in other parts of the country are like, what the fuck is he talking about right now? Eddie, what about you, man? You listen to a lot of music?
Oh, yeah. So actually, I'm fortunate enough to live right around the corner from Lou. I'm here in Dedham. I live in Dedham, and Lou is in West Roxbury. So he's like not even like a 3 to 5 minute ride. So, Lou's very generous to me anyways. He's always, hey, Eddie, listen to this. So I actually was just listening to Danny the K's new release, which is great,
Cigarettes and Silhouettes.
Yes, exactly. And I was actually listening to the Downhalls.
Love the Downhalls.
Yes. So a lot of local stuff, but I'm a big fan. Elvis Costello is one of my favorite of all-time favorites. And,
Terry's got a little bit of a Danny the K vibe, doesn't he? Kind of reminds me.
You just reminded me because when we go down to Ed's room for practice, and if Lou's been there, he's left stuff. And I just realized I left some stuff in my sax case. Yeah, I got the Downhall CD. So thanks for reminding me. I left some music in my case.
Good job, Eddie.
So, and I'm old school rock and roll guy too, you know. So I like to mix it up, punk rock, rock and roll, you know. And
Who-
this. Go ahead.
I was going to ask you who some of your drumming influences are.
Oh yeah, Keith Moon, John Bonham, you know. One of my favorite all time. Well,
Here it comes.
Can I
Jim
guess?
I know what you're
Janota.
going to say.
Can I, oh, I thought
Jim,
you,
Jim
I-
effing Janota. Jim effing Janota.
I
Love him.
almost thought you were going to say Walter Gustafson. I was
No,
like,
no, that's you know why I paused, Rico. I paused because his name was in my head, but I came out with Janota, so it would be you know both of them,
yeah,
Walter and oh yeah, I love them both, you know. And Jim, we've done many shows together, shared kits, you know. And Walter, you know, I've been a big fan of his for years. And I mean, the person that drinks a beer while he's playing the drums, how can you not love somebody like that, you know?
yeah.
Really quick story. They were Jumpin' Jack Flash. The outlets were doing a show in Jumpin' Jack Flash.
Yeah, I remember the
And
place.
I was in the bathroom, and they had no back room there, so they were still playing. They had just finished, and they all piled into the bathroom while I was in there, and like they were fired up, and you know, you could hear the crowd scream. You know, it's like, so what do you think? Let's go out and do another. You know, so they went out and did it. It was just cool to see them all like fired up. You know, hearing the crowd screaming for them, and then they come out and did like one or two encores after that, you know. And yeah, so I've always been I've been very intimidated by him, but always loved Walter, you know.
The Outlets and Gangrene both stayed at my house together in LA in 1985. They were on
Oh,
tour and they were sharing a drummer, Walter. And
Wow.
it was like Gangrene one night, the Outlets the other night, you know, San Diego, LA. It was like, it was complete chaos, man. And
wow, that's awesome.
I've never seen Walter, although I did hear one time he got a little wasted and couldn't play. But I mean, that's a rarity. Because he was just, he's in a phenomenal drummer. It's beyond me how his name isn't mentioned, you know, more than just as well, anyone that knows Gangrene had Brian Betzger too, you know. So it's like when you get drummers like that, I mean, it's like, but anyway, I mean, let's talk about, we got to talk about the booze cruise, because, you know, if I don't, Lou will call me up and say, you didn't talk about the booze cruise.
Yeah.
So tell me all about the booze cruise. When is it? Who's playing? What's going on with the booze cruise?
Okay, guys, you
is a
mind if I take this one?
You go ahead, Ed.
Okay, so the boat cruise. This is our third one, Rico, and the first two was really awesome. And so this is August 13th. It's a Sunday afternoon, 4 to 7, right? 60 Rose Wharf out of Boston Harbor, and you know, it's a great time. And actually, it's a Sunday, so I mean, I believe in Boston, you don't have to pay for parking, so you can find street parking. If not, there's garages around, you know. There's still some tickets left. And so great, absolutely fabulous bill. We have the Shanghai Lows, Chelsea Curve, and Stop Calling Me Frank. So 3 awesome local bands, and we're pretty much we got 3 weeks out before the show, so we're definitely looking to sell this one out. So
that's
Yeah,
a
so
great
if you're-
lineup.
You're listening
Yeah.
to this podcast before August 13th, and you're in the Boston area. Come on, get on the boat. Shanghai Lows, Chelsea Curve. Come on the
And
water.
you can cross the street afterwards and go to the Fisherman's Feast in the North End.
Yeah.
That'll still be going on that Sunday afternoon, you know.
And you, if you're lucky, you'll get to see Terry O'Malley and Dan Kopko standing next to each other, and you know, you'd be able to go, "Hey, there's a certain coolness going on with these two guys here." I mean, I'm trying to figure it out. What's the deal here? You know,
It's the
Well-
light colored hair.
The Haverhill connection.
Dan,
I'll
Rico-
spike it up like Danny the Kid.
now you have to watch the YouTube video to see that hair move. That was good, man.
So you did
Oh, yeah,
let
it's
the
all
cat
about the
out
hair,
of the
rock and roll.
bag. Rico, you let the cat out of the bag. So just so you know, Danny the K will be doing a song with the Frank Boys. So you will see them together doing
Breaking
a
news.
song.
Yeah.
So,
We
Yeah.
love to break news on this podcast, man. It's why we're here. We're here to break the news. Well, hey guys, thanks a lot, man, for coming on the show. You guys are fun, and I enjoyed having you. Good stories, man.
Yeah,
See,
thank
and we-
you. Very
I hope
much
you can catch us
appreciate
up. You missed us. You missed us last summer because I know you went to the Rum Bar thing at Somerville once, outdoor Somerville,
Yes.
and we were supposed to play that, but we couldn't. And I've heard you talk with other people who were there, and how about you had a great time. So I just disappointed that you didn't see us that day. So you have to come see us another time.
I heard you play through the walls more than once, though. I did actually, and Ethan always plays stuff for me, and I told him last week that you guys were going to be on the show. He was playing some of your songs for me before they were
That's great.
released.
Thanks, Ethan.
So, but thank you for coming on again, fellas. And you never know, man. Maybe you'll see me on the boat.
Yeah. Well, there's a ticket waiting for you if you want to go.
It sounds like something I definitely want to be at.
Yeah.
I think I do want to go. Sunday afternoon. It's
Sunday
before my
afternoon,
bedtime.
man.
I'm an old timer now, so I go to bed early. But 4:00,
early.
no excuse for that.
Oh yeah, we love playing the afternoon shows. Midway does that a lot. It's great to play an afternoon show at the Midway.
All right, fellas. Thank you very much, man.
Thank you
and good
so
luck.
much, Steve.
All right, I'll talk to you all soon.
All right,
Right.
take
All
care,
right.
Rico. Thanks again.
Take care. Take care, brother. Thank you.